He wants exclusive devotion to him. And if you worship Krishna, then all the other devatas or demigods are satisfied. So in this verse 7:14, in the purport, Prabhupada says, the words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna or Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajoguna, passion, and Tamoguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of ignorance, or Maya. In other words, it cannot release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya, or illusion. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya, therefore he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Swetasvatara Upanishad 3.8, confirm this in the phrase Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti padata sarve sam Vishnu eva na samsayaha. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Okay, so this exclusive surrender to Krishna is considered the most confidential part of knowledge. And as it said, it's the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So, therefore, we need to, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken in order to clear up any doubt about who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like in ancient times, there was a question by the demigods themselves, that who is actually the Supreme God? Is it Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu? And they selected Bhrigu Muni to determine this question. So Bhrigu Muni is the son of Brahma, the brother of Shiva, and the top Brahmana worshipper of Lord Vishnu. So he was the best person because he was related to all three. Anyway, I've told this story many times. You probably know what it is. Bhrigu Muni comes back to the demigods after testing Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, and he says, there's no doubt in my mind that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the modes of material nature. So, with that, that question was resolved in ancient times, and people are still confused because they don't read the Vedic scriptures carefully, and therefore they have to reinvent the wheel in every generation, although the wheel was already was invented over 5,000 years ago. See? So this confusion about, well, the modern way of dealing with it in Hinduism is to say, well, they're all equal. See? But that's not true. Everything is not equal. You know, if everything is equal, then you can drive a Yugo and not a Tesla. You know what a Yugo is? Yugo is the worst car ever made. It's made in Yugoslavia, you know, and in the old Soviet Union. Everyone used to make jokes about it. You know? Yeah, it was worse than the ambassador. And yet, that's saying a lot right there, because the ambassador was pretty bad already, right? But the Yugo is the worst car ever made, and so everything is not equal. So this whole idea that all the gods are equal, see, this is very funny. If we if we follow that philosophy, everything is equal, right? Then then you can give me your credit card, right? Everything is one. Everything is equal. See, this all is one. Everything is equal. It's nonsense, right? But when it comes to God, people will say all kinds of nonsensical things, and they feel that they're empowered to do that. But everything is not equal, and as long as that yatamat tatapat philosophy, as they say in Bengali, all gods are equal, all is one. When it comes to money, all is not one. When it comes to God, all is one. You see, so this is the nonsense that's going on today. So then, also in this verse, when it also says, in his various Puranas, Vyasadeva wrote the Puranas, he has recommended the worship of so many demigods in different forms and names. The result is that people generally are puzzled how to fix their minds in the service of the Lord. They are always disturbed about finding the real path of self-realization. Yeah, like today, one joker says that inner engineering. Another joker says you have to meditate standing on your head. Another joker says something else. Everyone's coming up with a different theory of how you can attain perfection in life. But that's not what Krishna says. So we have to decide who is the highest authority. This is a very important point. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam ivaisasi satyante pratijane priyosime. Arjuna, Manmana bhava madbhakto. Always think of me, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Mam namaskuru, offer all your homage unto me. If you do this, I promise you, surely you will come back to me. So, and then the next verse where it says, Sarvadharmam parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. That verse says, surrender only unto me. He didn't say, Sarvadeva mamekam saranam vraja, or Sarvadeva saranam vraja. He didn't say Sarvadeva saranam. He said, Mam ekam, only unto me. Or Mam eva, only unto me. So that exclusive worship of Krishna is all inclusive, because the Devatas are the eternal servants of the Lord. They follow his instructions. So if you please Krishna, and you please all the Devas also. And if you don't please Krishna and just try and please the Devas individually, and if you make a little mistake, the reaction is very severe. Just like there was a Vedic king who performed karmakanda type of rituals trying to please different demigods. And he made a little mistake. For that one little mistake he made, he had to spend 60,000 years in a dark well as a lizard. So this attempt to engage in worshiping different demigods is a risky business. And just a little mistake can be catastrophic. But in Kali Yuga, people are making all kinds of mistakes. Even the Brahmins are making mistakes. Therefore, there's chaos. And people get some material benefits out of doing those type of rituals, but ultimately they're forced to take birth over and over again to get those benefits. because they're material benefits, they're not spiritual benefits. So then Prabhupada explains also, Krishna is the root of the tree. He is the stomach of the complete body. Pouring water on the root is the right process to water the tree, as much as feeding the stomach supplies energy to all parts of the body. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva should not have compiled any Puranas other than the Bhagavata Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are reading now, because a slight deviation from that may create havoc for self-realization. If a slight deviation can create such havoc, then what to speak of deliberate expansion of the ideas separate from the absolute truth personality of Godhead? The most defective part of worshipping demigods is that it creates a definite conception of pantheism, ending disastrously in many religious sects, detrimental to the progress of the principles of the Bhagavatam, which alone can give the accurate direction for self-realization and eternal relation with the personality of Godhead by devotional service and transcendental love. So here we see that this is an endemic problem in Hinduism. Just like it has many ramifications. Like, for example, in modern times, Muslims will vote in bloc in India. Whatever the Imam says, that's who they vote for. And it's usually the Congress Party. The Hindus, they'll vote for this one, that one, this, but they're completely disunified, right? And that's because in Islam they say Wahad Allah. There's only one God, right? In Hinduism they say all the gods are equal. This was Gandhi's nonsense. He also emphasized this idea that all gods are equal. You can be a Muslim, that's okay. You can be a Jain, that's okay. You can be a Hindu, that's okay. You can be a Sikh, that's okay. You can be an atheist, that's also okay, right? So he emphasized and pushed the idea that you can worship any religion, they're all equal. Of course, the Muslims didn't accept that, but the Hindus did. And I'm not saying he's the author of this, but he emphasized it in modern times, right? But this defect is right there in ancient times, and it was committed by Vyasadeva himself, right? By overemphasizing the Varnashram Dharma system and the whole system of karma kanda performances to appease different demigods. If you read the Rig Veda, it tells you which demigod to worship for such and such benefit. And then you read the Samaveda, it tells you what prayers you can offer them. And then you read the Yajurveda, explains how to do the different types of yagyas. So, I don't know if any of you ever read the Rig Veda. I have. Is absolutely confusing. You can't figure out who is God, and anyone who reads that, they become convinced that there are many gods, and you can worship any one of them, and they're all equal. Okay, so then, if there are no questions, we'll go on to text 15. Yeah. Well, polytheism means many different religions. Pantheism means many gods. Right? So, many religions, it doesn't mean that they're all worshiping different gods. Just like in Christianity, there's many sects, right? They're all claim to be Christians, but there are many different sects. So that's a polytheist, and then America is a polytheistic country because you have freedom of religion. So, and if you ever look at the names, like for example, they have the Methodist Church, then they have the Lutheran Church, and then they have the Whole Bible Church, and then they have the Episcopalian Church, and then they have the Catholic Church, and then you have the Anglican Church. Huh? Then you have the Mormons. Mormons are not Christians. No. They have their own Bible. It's different than the Christian Bible. They have their own theory. I mean, the Christians don't accept them as Christians. The Mormons say they're Christians so that they can spread their religion in the United States. But they're not really Christians. What? No, they wrote their own book. It's not that they changed anything. They wrote their own book. It's called the Mormon Bible. It's different than the Christian Bible. They have a different interpretation of history. Let's put it like that. They have a different interpretation of history. Then the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're also different. They're not even Christians. You know. So, I mean, it's chaos. It's total chaos. Then in Islam, you have different sects also. You know, you have the Shias, you have the Sunnis, but that's not all. There are others. I mean, the Muslims don't accept them, you know, but you have the Ahmadis, and you have the Sufis. Sufis are hippies, Muslim hippies. The Sufis are offshoot of the Shaivites. The Muslims hate them. They like their poetry, but they hate them, you know. And they used to kill them. You know. They were outlawed by Mustafa Kemal in Turkey. You know. Yeah, so there's chaos everywhere, right? So polytheism means different religions, and pantheism means believe in many gods. Right? And usually all gods are equal. Okay? What? No. No, the Greek theology was pantheistic. Yeah. They say that the Abrahamic tradition is monotheistic. Only one God, right? Yeah, of course. But Hinduism is considered pantheistic. Yeah. Okay, text 15. They're going to get hurt. Those kids, they're going to run around, fall down the stairs. Whose children are they? Okay, you have to get the parents. Get the parents of these kids. Now, you have to. His father is downstairs in the kitchen. Well, you have to tell him to watch his kid. Okay, text 15. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy. And so Narada is continuing to critique, not criticize, but critique. There's a difference. Huh? When you a critique is a beneficial way of helping a person understand. Whereas a criticism, you're saying, this is wrong, right? Yeah. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable, because they are guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Okay, now this is a very profound statement. And this is a symptom of what's going on today. That is, if you give people a way to perform religious activities for material benefits, That is what's being said here. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, meaning enjoy material sense gratification. And you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. In the name of religion. So therefore, the whole Karmakanda section of the Vedas, beginning with the Rig Veda, is different sacrifices for different demigods for different types of material benefits. And this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita also. It's not that Krishna recommends it in the Bhagavad Gita, no. But this system is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. And if I'm not mistaken, it's in the 3rd chapter. Let me just see where it is. Where he says, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna or sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the demigods are authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas, or sacrifices. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely according to different qualities. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. But for those who are in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. But ultimately, all yajnas or sacrifices are meant for the gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary men, at least 5 yajnas, known as Pancha Mahayajna, are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life that the human society requires are supplied by the demigod agents of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Take, for example, all the eatables of human society. Those eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar, etc., for the persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians like meats, none of which can be manufactured by men. Then again, take, for example, heat, light, water, air, etc., which are also necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by the human society. Without the Supreme Lord, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, breeze, etc., without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on supplies from the Lord. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied by the agents of the Lord with the purpose that we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to the ultimate goal of life, namely liberation from the material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by performance of yajna, or sacrifices. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yajnas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yajna, namely Sankirtana yajna, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness. So the key to understanding this whole thing is that the aim of life is obtained by performance of yagyas, or sacrifices. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord, meaning the demigods, for sense gratification, and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and we're punished. We become subject to the laws of karma. So this is what basically is saying here. He says, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. In other words, if you become addicted to eating candy, at a certain point you can't stop. Or you become addicted to smoking marijuana, at a certain point you can't stop. So if you become addicted to performing Satyanarayana Puja for your business to get better, for your grandmother's backache to go away, for this thing, for that thing, all material purposes, then you're misusing the whole system of Jagya. It's not so that you can have continual material prosperity. It's so that you can have your minimum needs easily, so you have maximum time for spiritual life. That was the whole purpose of the yagyas. They give you your your minimal material necessities easily, so that you're not always struggling just to make a living, and therefore you have extra time to engage in spiritual activities. But if people misuse the system and become overwhelmed with sense gratification and lose their taste for the rules and regulations of spiritual life, they just want to aggrandize their wealth, their sense enjoyment, and so forth, then that's a total misuse of the process of yagya, and they get punished. And punished by being subject to the laws of karma. So in the Vedas let's read this purport. Srila Vyasadeva's compilation of different Vedic literatures on the basis of regulated performance of fruitive activities as depicted in the Mahabharata and other literature is condemned herewith by Srila Narada. The human beings, by long material association, life after life, have a natural inclination, by practice, to endeavor to lord it over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. Human life is meant for self-realization. It's not meant for self-indulgence. The human beings, by long material association, life after life, have a natural inclination, by practice, to endeavor to lord it over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of illusory matter. The Vedas are meant for going back to Godhead, going back home, to revolve in the cycle of transmigration in a series of lives numbering 8,400,000 is an imprisoned life for the condemned conditioned souls. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to reestablish his lost relationship with God. So this is an explanation of what is the purpose of man's existence in the material world. We come to the material world, which is a reformatory. It's to reform our perverted desire to separate ourselves from God and try and become a competitor of God for the assets of material nature. So people think that success in life is aggrandizing material wealth, property, and sense gratification and so forth. So therefore, you'll see that there's a lot of news about how much people pay for a mansion. So all the movie stars, the football, baseball, basketball stars, and other people, and they're glorified because they say so and so just bought a mansion in California for $145 million, and it's 30,000 square feet. 30,000 square feet is 3 times bigger than this temple. What can a person do in a house like that, right? And it's just for him and his wife. Their kids are already going to college, right? Yeah, I went to one person's house on Mercer Island. It wasn't 30,000 square feet, but it was like 20,000 square feet, right? So it's a huge space, right? So they have to fill it up. So they have a basketball court, there's a tennis court inside. They have a swimming pool, and and how much do they use those things, right? They hardly use them at all, right? And it is exuberance on steroids, right? You know how much it costs to heat a building like that? It's a huge amount of money. All the taxes, all the utilities and everything. It would cost you sometimes just to maintain the house $5,000 a month just for the maintenance, right? The water, the electricity, all these things. So that is a complete misuse of human life. And in Satya Yuga, people didn't live like that. They lived in very simple, usually cow dung houses, cow dung and mud houses, which are very good because they're warm in the winter and cool in the summer, naturally because of the cow dung. And then they didn't have any industries, and they didn't have big cities. They lived very comfortably, and they had plenty of time for a spiritual life. And nature cooperated with them because they didn't live sinfully. They knew how to pacify nature so that nature... there was a cooperation between Krishna, the demigods, and the people. And that's what's explained in the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, Saha Yagya Prajasristva Pururava Prajapati Ananya San Prasavistvad Mam Esavosvista Kamaduk. So this is 3rd chapter, 10th verse, and it says, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures, Lord Vishnu, sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Lord Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna or sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable to live happily and achieve liberation." So, right from the beginning of time, Krishna explains the purpose of human life and the purpose of the material creation. The purpose of material creation is for people to rehabilitate their perverted desire to be separate from God and return back to the spiritual world, right? However, over time, that very benevolent purpose has been transformed into purpose of life is to enjoy, eat, sleep, be merry, and when you die, there's nothing after that. So you don't have to worry about being responsible for your deeds, because there's nothingness afterwards. So that's a false philosophy. So this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, verse number 19. In the purport, it says that Vedic knowledge is called Shruti, learning by oral reception. One should actually receive the Vedic message from authorities like Krishna and his representatives. Here, Krishna distinguishes everything very nicely and one should hear from this source. Simply to hear like the hogs is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from the authorities. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who's able to understand this, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas, and no one else knows the purpose of the Vedas. So here it says, so that's the purpose of the Vedas, is to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the purpose of creation, material creation, is an opportunity given to living entities to free themselves from the cycle of birth and death and return to the spiritual world. That's the whole plan of the Lord. And this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, where it says, there is a specific plan being carried out in this material world. What is this plan? This cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead, back to home. As long as they have the domineering mentality, which makes them try to lord it over material nature, they are conditioned. But anyone who can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord and cultivate Krishna consciousness is most intelligent. The creation and destruction of the cosmic manifestation are under the superior guidance of God. Thus, the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of God. Arjuna was refusing to fight, but he was told that he should fight in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Lord. Then he would be happy. If one is in full Krishna consciousness and his life is devoted to the Lord's transcendental service, he is perfect. So, today, atheists, atheistic philosophers, and scientists say there's no plan of material nature. It happened by accident, and it's just going on by its own telepathic process. Now, that telepathic is a big word. It's a Greek word. It was used by Aristotle. It means that nature has inherent in it natural striving for self-perfection. And it's a nonsense concept, right? As if everything happens automatically and there's no intelligence behind it, right? But telepathic means that things will eventually get better and better because it's a natural, let's say, natural process of nature to self-perfect. Right? But that's not a fact. Nature, Krishna says, Maya dakshena prakriti surite charasaram itananena konteya jagat viparivartate. He says that material nature is acting under his guidance. It's not telepathic by itself. It's functioning in particular ways because there's superior intelligence behind it. Now, the scientists, philosophers, atheistic philosophers, they try and debunk that, and they say nature just has its own way of getting better through evolution, through survival of the fittest, etc. And these are all nonsense concepts. Did Microsoft develop by itself with no intelligence behind it? Is object-oriented programming a process of self-perfection without any intelligence guiding it? Yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense. Now, nothing is self-directed by itself without intelligence behind it. Everything is intelligence-driven in the material world, but yet they say that the whole material creation happened by accident. See? So Krishna says in the 9th chapter, 10th verse, the material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So this is the fact, as opposed to the fiction. And if we understand these things, then we become a devotee. If we make up phony theories that everything happened by accident, it's all going on by itself, there's no one behind, no intelligence behind it, then those are accommodations so that we can live without any sense of responsibility to a higher authority. See? So it's just like being a mathematician. A mathematician with, if you understand what they do, they create their own laws. They create their own. They create their own little universe, mathematical universe, and they can adjust it any way they want, by their first definitions, and in that way, it's a theoretical world, and it's a very highly specialized language. Like, for example, Einstein and Gödel. There were two top mathematicians in Princeton University, right? And they were theoretical mathematicians. So Gödel wrote certain theorems that only a few people in the world could understand. That's how highly specialized their mathematical language is. Only a few people in the world could understand what Gödel was saying in his computations and his theories. See? So if you create a specialized language, and obviously all the different disciplines have their own specialized language, right? When you hear scientists talking, sometimes you can hardly understand what they're saying, although they're speaking English, but they have a specialized language. And then when they're you have architects are speaking, they have their specialized. When you read a legal contract, I mean, obviously it's very difficult to understand. There's a lot of words that have specific meanings that are specialized, right? Just like in a dictionary, you'll see a word has its general meaning, and then it has a legal definition also, right? Which is different than the general meaning of the word. So this highly specialized language is a way of excluding people. You have to join the club and be trained in the special language to understand what they're talking about. See? And there are books like this. There's a famous mathematician, Whitehead. He was a British mathematician. There are books thick like this. There's not one English word in it. It's all mathematical symbols. And you look at it, you don't understand anything, right? And there's no explanation. There's no English explanation of what he means. So you would have to learn what all those symbols mean to understand what he's talking about in the book. And it's a book like this. I don't know if you've ever seen one like that. What? Yeah. So that's because they create a very exclusive club. And to enter that club, it requires a lot of training, right? And then when you get into that club and they train you to think in a certain way, if you deviate from that, they throw you out. See? Then you have to make your own language. Okay, so therefore, Sri Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations in the Mahabharata, etc., and his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement, because the people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which hold them in bondage. So if you teach people how to do this yajna to get a certain material benefit, then don't think that they'll ever stop doing it. They'll keep doing it. Just like if you figure out a way to cheat the slot machine in Las Vegas, right? Like they have these little advertisements. If you put this chip in your cell phone and you play the slot machine, then you'll always win. Do you ever see those ads? Yeah, they have ads like that all over the place. So if a person learns to be able to do that, then it's like free money. You walk into any casino, and you secretly program something on your cell phone, right? And then you start playing the slot machine. Boom! You hit the jackpot. Did you know that? Yeah. So if people know that you think they would ever stop hitting the jackpot? No. So this is what he's saying here. He's saying that at a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yajna, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. So in other words, it says, Srila Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations in the Mahabharata, etc., and his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement, because the people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which hold them in material bondage. Jai Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai. At a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yajna, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh-eaters still continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literature such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh-eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. So this is what happened when you enter, when Dwapara Yuga ended and finished and Kali Yuga began. Animal sacrifices were forbidden. There were several things that were forbidden when Kali Yuga began that were permitted previously. One was, if your brother's wife dies, then the living brother takes her as an extra wife. That's forbidden in Kali Yuga. They used to happen in the past. Then another one was that you could perform animal and human sacrifices previously, because the Vedic Brahmanas were so expert in saying the mantras that the test that they could say correctly was that they would offer an old cow into the fire and then pull it out, rejuvenate it as a young calf. And they also performed human sacrifices, just like the story of Harish Chandra. I told this story already, but his son was destined to die, so to save the boy from dying, he asked Vasistha Muni, what can I do? And he said, well, if you can purchase another boy, you can sacrifice that boy instead of your son. So he found a Brahmin who was poor, who had 5 sons, and he purchased one son from him. And then he prepared the boy for sacrifice. When Vasistha Muni heard this, Vishwamrita Muni heard this, he was very upset, and he had some kind of a competition with Vasistha Muni, Harishchandra's guru. So he came and he taught the little boys a certain mantra to say. And when they put the boy in the fire, he said the mantra and he didn't burn. And then later on, they gave the boy to Vishwamrita Muni because the father had sold him. Harishchandra was going to kill him. So they decided that the real father of the boy was Vishwamrita Muni, who taught him the mantra to save his life. So we see that there was human sacrifice, but it was not killing because the Brahmins were so expert that they could rejuvenate the life of the person that died in the fire or the animal that died. But in Kali Yuga, it's not allowed because people are, the Brahmins are not expert now in saying the mantras as they were before. It depends on purity also. It's not only on pronunciation and meter, but it's also a question of purity. So that the horse sacrifice, animal sacrifice, is forbidden in Kali Yuga. Marrying the widow of your brother is forbidden in Kali Yuga. And then taking Mayavadi sannyas, not sannyas, Mayavadi sannyas. Ekadanda sannyas is forbidden in Kali Yuga. What? Because their renunciation is not, let's say, pure. Their renunciation is to become God, right? By merging into the Brahman effulgence. Whereas the purpose of renunciation is to develop pure love for Krishna. And as we've explained before, the Mayavadi philosophers, the followers of Sankaracharya, and Sankaracharya Sarirak Bhasya, his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, in which he basically tries to prove that Vyasadeva made a mistake and that there's no such thing as transformation of Brahman, but therefore their Mahavaikya is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The spiritual world is real, the material world is false. It's just illusory. It doesn't really exist. And when you renounce everything in the material world, then you can merge into the oneness of the Brahman effulgence, in which there's no more individuality, and you attain so-called perfection. That whole thing is a hoax. It's not true. And they purport that the spiritual world, there's no individuality at all. This thing, Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna in Mathura, Krishna in Dwarka, it's all hoax. There's no individuality in the spiritual world. There's no Krishna, there's no Nanda Maharaj, there's no Yasoda Maya, there's no cows, there's no Goloka. There's just Brahman. Right? And that when you merge into Brahman, you become God. Because they say Brahman is the original source of everything. So it's a false philosophy. It's not true. That's why it's called Mayavad. Vad means worship. Maya means illusion. They're worshiping an illusion. It's not a real philosophy. They say everything is false in the material world. Then that means their philosophy is also false. That's in the material world. Right? But they don't admit that. So, the followers of Radha Swami, he's a Mayavadi. He's a nice man, but he's a Mayavadi. And so many other people like that believe that the ultimate source is non-personal, and it's some kind of eternal emanating energy in which one merges into it and loses their individuality. Okay. So now we see that Buddha and Jesus Christ both did the same thing. They both were horrified by animal sacrifice, and they both started different religions to stop animal sacrifice. And what's shocking is that many modern Buddhists eat meat, just like the Dalai Lama eats meat. Oh yeah, he's a meat eater. Yeah, and the Christians, the original idea of Jesus was to stop animal sacrifice, which was going on in the Temple of David. And but as soon as a religion becomes prominent, they start, let's say, compromising their ideals in order to make important people devotees. So as soon as Christianity convinced Constantine, the emperor of the Roman Empire, to become a Christian, they compromised their rules. Right? And in order to accommodate such big materialistic people to follow their religion. So today, Thanksgiving, they killed 60 million turkeys in one day. No, but Thanksgiving, right? But that's not all that they kill. They kill 80 million cows, 1 billion chickens, 1 billion fish, over 1 billion fish. They kill, 60 million pigs, 60 million sheep, and then the number keeps going on. It's a gigantic killing subculture in the United States. Therefore, the United States is always involved in wars, and all these countries that kill animals unnecessarily, including India now, they end up having wars all the time and internal strife and revolutions and all that stuff. They don't say if it's vegetable protein or animal protein. No, you know the most nutritious protein is now? Cockroaches. No, I'm not kidding you. There are gigantic farms in China now. They're producing cockroach protein. They export it all over the world. It doesn't come as a cockroach. It comes as a powder. Right, and it's roasted also. Yeah. But in China, they eat the whole cockroaches. They make like a pakora out of it. It's nice and crunchy. I'm not kidding you. It's, yeah. Well, you can go to Chinatown here also. You get most of those birds. They have this fried duck. It's a specialty in Chinatown. Okay, I never ate it, but I've seen it in the window. Okay, so the flesh eaters still continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literature, such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialistic men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. In the Vedas, it is distinctly said that the perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by accumulation of wealth or even by increasing the population, but it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so-called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporeal defects, or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. In other words, if you're a material failure, then you become a religionist. But if you're a material success, then that's the real life. See? In histories like the Mahabharata, of course, there are topics on transcendental subjects along with material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of the Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, that one should relinquish all other engagements and should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. But men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to the politics, economics, and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, it's like, for example, in India they say Manasa Seva is Madhava Seva. That is exactly wrong. Madhava Seva is Manasa Seva. So now, are they equal? Is Manasa Seva is Madhava Seva? Like if you serve mankind, is it serving God? No. But if I serve meat, like, Obama and his wife were going to a homeless shelter every Thanksgiving and serving out turkey. Now, is that serving humanity by serving out turkey? No, that's serving out death. Because according to Manu Samhita, anyone who kills the turkey, cooks the turkey, sells the turkey, transports the turkey, eats the turkey, etc. They're all murderers. And they have to take as many births as there are, and they have to take a birth and be slaughtered in the same way that the turkey was slaughtered, right? If it's a cow, then they have to take birth as many times as there are hairs on the body of the cow and be slaughtered. It's even worse. So that altruistic or that, let's say, service to mankind is not actually serving God. God doesn't accept meat as an offering. In the Vedas, you can, like we said, offer meat to Kali, but if you make a little mistake, then you suffer tremendously. Just like King Nriga, he inadvertently made a mistake giving charity to Brahmins. So he was giving out cows to Brahmanas once a month, but one cow that he gifted to a Brahmana got loose and came back into the herd of the king, and the next day he gave it to another Brahmana. And then the first Brahmana was looking for the cow, and he saw the other Brahmana walking away with the cow. And he stopped him and said, "Look, excuse me, that's my cow." And he said, "No, how can it be your cow? The king just gave it to me." He said, "But the king gave it to me yesterday." He said, "What?" So they went back to the king and said, "What's going on here?" And the king said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how it happened." And he told the first Brahmana, "I'll give you 1,000 cows. Please be satisfied." And the Brahmana said, "No, I want this cow. I don't want 1,000. What am I going to do with 1,000 cow? You gave me this one cow. I'm satisfied. Give me this cow." And the other one said, "You can't give it to him because you gave it to me." So King Nriga had to spend 60,000 years in a dark, dank well as a lizard for that little mistake that he didn't make consciously, right? That's how severe it is when you worship demigods. And if you make a little mistake, you get a severe reaction. See? This is in the Krishna book. In fact, let's get the Krishna book and see what Prabhupada says there, because that's a very instructive story. So, this compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada, who advises him to directly proclaim the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord and thus surrender unto him without delay. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady or sickness is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not at all take. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruit of work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self-realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization, but those who are in the devotional line need not be always so advised. So, therefore, the let's call circuitous path of spiritual advancement, as opposed to the direct path. Circuitous means, a meandering path to eventually get to the goal, or the direct path where you just go directly to the goal. So Krishna consciousness is direct goal-seeking process. And Karmakanda is the meandering way. Go a little bit this, a little bit that, and eventually you'll get there. But there's no guarantee that you'll get there, because one time there was a king who built a very special building. And in this building, you had to walk through 4 big rooms before you came to the sanctum, or to where the deity was. Right? And the first room, there was beautiful, let's say, people, especially women, and very handsome men. So, anyone who walked into that first room, they became attracted. If the woman became attracted by the men became attracted by the women. So let's say 100 people started to walk through that long building. It's something like, the Boeing factory, right? It's a very, very long building, right? And each room is very big. So only 25 people made it to the second room. 75 people stayed in the first room because they met someone that was so attractive they just didn't want to leave. So in the second room, there was all kinds of really good food. So only 10 people made it to the third room. The others wanted to stay there and just gouge themselves. So in the third room, there were intoxicating drinks. And only 2 people made it to the fourth room. Right? And in the fourth room, there was beautiful music. There was enchanting music. Only 1 person got out. You see? So this is what's happening in the material world, right? If you teach people that you can have all kinds of sense gratification by performing materialistic rituals, how many people you think are going to end up becoming Krishna conscious? Very, very few. Maybe some will, if they have a guru who's helping them, but most of the gurus are not interested in helping them get out, because then they lose a customer. Because they're making money off of doing all those rituals, right? And therefore, they're not going to say, look, this is not the real goal. The real goal is you become a pure devotee. Well, they're not going to get rid of their own customer. Right? And the customer is addicted now to sense gratification through religious activity. So why should they renounce everything? See? So that's the dilemma of this Karmakanda section of the Vedas. And that's why Narada Muni is really making Vyasadeva understand that, he spent too much time on Karmakanda and not enough time on explaining who Krishna is. Therefore, the remedy to that was Srimad Bhagavatam, which is only concerned with Krishna. It's not concerned with anything else. Okay, so we'll do text 16 and we'll stop. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Now, this is a major point. The Mayavadis say that you can attain perfection by renouncing all activity and just going into a state of meditation. And the devotees say that you can attain perfection not simply by acquiring knowledge, but by putting that knowledge to use in practical devotional service. So we see we have two diametrically opposed philosophies. One is saying the ultimate goal is inactivity, and the other is saying the ultimate goal is positive activity, but uniquely for the pleasure of the Lord. So the Mayavad philosophy takes you away from Krishna. It doesn't bring you closer, it takes you away from Krishna. And the Vaishnava philosophy brings you closer to Krishna through practical, unabated activities. One says renounce all activities, the other says learn the art of work and then act always in Krishna consciousness. So we have two what's called diametrically opposed philosophical systems. And what you achieve through the Mayavad path is not real liberation, because it's an unnatural state. And Bhagavad Gita says, the 3rd chapter, in the beginning, that the nature of the soul is to be active. So how can you remain inactive eternally in the Brahmajyoti? It's not possible. Eventually, you have even the slightest desire, you fall down. So 3rd chapter, 4th verse, it says, fifth verse, it says, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Yeah, tell your kid, sit down and don't move all day long. You think he would do that? No. If someone told you, sit down and don't do anything for 3 days. No, it's impossible. So Prabhupada says, it is not a question of embodied life. It's not that the body can't stop acting. But it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness, otherwise it will be engaged in occupations dictated by illusory energy. In contact with the material nature, the spirit soul acquires material modes, and to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. But if the soul is engaged in his natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. And then he quotes a verse from the 1st canto's 5th chapter, 17th verse, which is the next verse we're going to study next week. Tyakva swadharmam charanam bhuja harer bhajan apakvo tapatet tato yadi yatrakva vabadram abud amusyakim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the Shastras, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna conscious? So the purificatory process is necessary for reaching the point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyasa, or any purificatory process, is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So, if you go through the Mayavada path and renounce this, renounce that, renounce everything, and just meditate on what? On the imperceptible Brahman, then you wasted your time. Because the goal is to become active in Krishna consciousness, always active in Krishna consciousness. The goal is to become conscious of Krishna, not to be conscious of some light. And if you're conscious of Krishna, Krishna is the most attractive person, then you want to serve him. So the ultimate goal is to become Krishna conscious. If you don't become Krishna conscious, then everything you did was a waste of time. Okay. So, so this is sometimes applicable. So sometimes, well, in another part of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that we should not disturb the minds of the materialists. Let's see where he says that. He says, so as not to disturb the minds of ignorant men. This is 3rd chapter, 26th verse. Attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So he's saying here, look, if someone is working and doing yagyas and things like that for material benefit, you shouldn't stop them. But you should help them to understand gradually, in a gentle and let's say, benevolent way, that that's not the purpose of yajna. The purpose of yajna is to become Krishna conscious. And the material benefits that one can gain from doing yajnas are simply to help you easily attain your minimal needs so that you have maximum time for spiritual life. Like, for example, let's say that you do some business and you earn $2 million profit. So then, could you live the rest of your life without working? No, you can't. Yeah, you can. You can. Let me tell you something. Majority of Americans in this country do not earn more than $50,000 a year. Did you know that? And some places it's even less, $35,000. But yet, they live. Now let's say you earn $50,000 a year, right? Now, how many years could you live on $1 million? If you had $1 million. Well, 50,000 goes into 1 million how many times? Okay. So if you were 60 years old and you acquired $1 million, could you live the rest of your life? Yeah. And $50,000 when you had a family and everything. But now, if you don't have the family, it's just husband and wife, could you live on less than $50,000? Yes. And if you lived in India, you could probably live on $15,000, right? So you see, you don't really need a lot of money to completely retire, right? And if you become a sannyasi, then you don't need hardly anything, right? So the whole idea of Vedic yajna is to make it easy for you to not work day and night, just to earn a living, and as long as you become more and more, let's say, simplified on your level of let's say, necessities, you could live and have plenty of time for Krishna consciousness. That's the whole point. No, let's say you're 25 years old and you know you're going to die when you're 30. Astrologer told you you're dead meat at 30. Right? So what would you do? How would you plan your life, that extra 5 years? What would you do, brother? Would you continue doing what you're doing now? No, you wouldn't. You see, so we have to understand that we could die at any time. There's no guarantee we're going to live to be 100 years old or 80 years old. There's no guarantee. So therefore, we have to plan our life in such a way as to have time, organize our life in such a way to have time, morning and evening, to engage in devotional service, hearing, chanting, and so forth. Right. That's the purpose of the Vedic yajnas, is to give us our easier time to make a living, so that we have more time for spiritual life. There it is. Hare Krishna. And if you actually desire this, it'll happen. But if you don't desire this, then you're following the crowd. See, just like sometimes if you're walking around downtown, all of a sudden you see a crowd of people like this looking up, and you say, "What's going on?" So you go there, you look up also, and you ask someone, "What are you looking for?" They say, "I don't know. I just came here. Everyone else was looking up, so I'm looking up. I'm not sure what they're looking for." So you just follow the crowd, right? Everyone say, "Look, the goal of life is, you make money, and you get bigger house and bigger car, and this wife and that wife, and this kid and that kid, and this vacation, that vacation." That's what life is all about. So it's just like, you walk downtown, everyone's, so you look up also, you think, I got to follow the crowd. But if you read Bhagavatam, you're not going to follow the crowd. You have a different purpose in life. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Any questions or comments or anything? Actually, I didn't. Did I read the whole? Oh, we stopped on 15, right? We stopped on. Oh, then I didn't read all the purport. Huh? Huh? Yeah. Okay. Okay, no questions? Haribol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh. Yeah, so we want to thank Venkat Prabhu, Venkateshwarlu Mamidena, right? Is that your name? We'll just say Venkat for short. Ven means sin, and Kat means elimination of sin or killing sin, right? So it's a good name. But what is Venkateshwarlu? What does that mean? You don't know. It's your name, right? They are your ancestors. Okay. Well, Venkat means what, it's a name of Balaji who purifies or destroys sins, right? Good. So thank you very much. Prabhuji has donated $6,139 to cover the cost of the Kirtan Mela. And he doesn't even live here. Well, that means anyone who lives here must do 3 times more than this. Haribol. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. May be blessed to support hundreds of Kirtan Melas. Jai. Haribol. Krishna bless you like that. So, Haribol. Haribol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very, very much. And hopefully he's going to be able to move back here in this summertime. Haribol. We need him. He comes to Mangal Arati every morning, right on time. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada. Prabhu, you put this in the Hundi box. Yes. Yes.
Next Thursday, we are performing her dance.
Okay.
It's according
Next
to our
year, you said?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Okay.
At
Next week.
7:30, Prabhu mentioned, is it fine for you
Yeah, I'll be here.
to come
Oh, next Thursday night?
evening, 7:30?
Uh-huh. Because we usually have the Bhagavatam on Thursdays. You can't do it on Friday or Wednesday.
So at what time? I can do it earlier.
Oh, earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do it earlier.
It's just for 10 minutes?
Oh, it's just 10 minutes.
Yeah, just 10 minutes.
Okay, so you can do it right after right after Aarti, 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted your permission and blessing. So
Yeah,
please,
that's okay.
we-
Yeah. But you have to be right on time. As soon as it ends, then you do your
yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna. Jai. All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu.
I was waiting for you. I wanted to talk
Oh,
to
I'm
you.
sorry. Yeah.
No.
I didn't know.
wanted your blessings. Yes, okay.
I will be here. Haribol.
Next Thursday at 7:30.
I got it.